in Pembroke Pines.
That tornado rolling through several neighborhoods, toppling trees, sending large branches crashing onto cars. Homeowners stunned when they came out to survey the damage.
Storms left these planes badly damaged, tossed around like toys at North Perry Airport. It's a busy night at the storm station tracking Hurricane Ian. This is the story of the night tonight, not only here but in the Gulf of Mexico. Outer bands from powerful Category 3 Hurricane Ian leaving their mark, spawning tornado trouble here in South Florida. It's set to make landfall somewhere on Florida's west coast tomorrow. Hello again. 2 confirmed tornadoes tonight, one in Hollywood, the other in Pembroke Pines.
Night team coverage begins with Brandon Byer. He's live in Pembroke Pines with a look at the damage there. Brandon.
Craig Belkey's, looks like this tornado just swept through and in a matter of minutes did some significant damage. You're going to see some trees down in the neighborhood blocking, I should say, roads. Also, this is a school. We're in the parking lot of an elementary school here just down the road from there. Thankfully, no school tomorrow, no school Thursday, so they're going to have some time to clean this up. You saw the tree down there, and then appears there was some construction happening at the school as well. That's been blown around.
Sounded like a train coming right through the kitchen.
A lot of wind, a lot of rain, a lot of water.
A rough night in this Pembroke Pines neighborhood Tuesday when bands from Hurricane Ian dropped what appears to be a tornado, blocking roadways. A small SUV that seems to have attempted to drive over some of the branches stuck.
I walked out and, the garbage can had moved a little bit, and I'm going, well, that's kind of interesting. But then when you came out and you went up the street here and down west here on Pasadena Boulevard, you can see where all the damage was.
Residents quick to begin the cleanup process, dragging away debris, using chainsaws to clear the road.
The whole neighborhood came together, right? We're able to clear the road for everybody, get the first responders in to help anybody that's hurt. A lot of branches down, a lot of cars, not looking too good, but the whole neighborhood's coming together, which is a great thing. It's good to see the community coming together.
A nearby elementary school also damaged in the storm. Schools are closed in Broward County on Wednesday, which will give them time for cleanup here as well. It really was cool to see how quickly these folks came together. Some knew each other, some didn't. They were sharing tools and just made really quick work as far as making these roads passable. Mentioned in the piece there, no school in Broward County Wednesday, so they'll have some time to deal with this. No school Thursday either. Live tonight in Pembroke Pines, Brandon Byer, 7 News 19.
Brandon, we're going to move now to North Perry Airport in Pembroke Pines, where strong winds caused damage to planes. That's where we find the night team's Jeff Lennox. Jeff.
And Belkis, I tell you here this evening, some significant damage done here at North Perry Airport and some neighborhoods surrounding this airport. We are live right outside one of the fences here at North Perry, and you can see a couple of damaged planes right there. One plane nose down, 2 planes right there to the right, also tangled around one another. 17 planes in total damaged here when one of those feeder bands moved through earlier tonight.
Oh wow, this is a twin. They're totally destroyed.
All over the tarmac at North Perry Airport in Pembroke Pines, mangled metal tossed all over the place. Ian unleashing strong wind gusts as a nasty rain band moved through Tuesday night after 7:30 p.m.
There is avgas or 100 low lead fuel all over the place. It's a hazmat situation. I got another 172 that is completely destroyed here.
Single engine planes flipped, tossed onto one another like toys. Tails ripped off. Even some of these planes tied down for an event just like this one, ripped from the ground, they're tied to. The winds proving too strong for these small aircraft.
It's pretty messed up, and there's hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of aircraft that are completely destroyed here.
Stephen J. Gray keeps an eye on the traffic for today in Florida. Tuesday night, he got the alert about the damage at North Perry and shot these videos.
I was watching, our station, and then you see that it went through University and Miramar and damage. So I said, let me come to North Perry and see what the damage is, and sure enough, it's a bad day here. Just
to the north of the airport, that same band uprooting trees. Branches and debris scattered all over this apartment complex off Northwest 78th Terrace. Ian, one unwelcome guest who took these residents by complete surprise.
I was just, chilling inside, and then out of nowhere, like the big gushes of wind. And I look outside, tree branches everywhere, on top of our cars.
I was eating, and all we heard was like a big bang on the door, and then it was like a bunch of wind, like out of nowhere, for like a good minute. And then we came out and we saw the trees down. It was actually on top of the car, but we took it down.
So back here at North Perry Airport, we have a number of people on this property right now surveying the damage done from that feeder band that moved through earlier in the night. Pembroke Pines police here, also fire rescue checking on the situation. As for here at the airport and those surrounding neighborhoods, it doesn't appear, at least right now, that there were any injuries earlier tonight when those strong winds moved on through. But we'll stay on top of this story throughout the evening hours. We're live in Pembroke Pines. Jeff Lennox, 7 News Night Team.
Okay, Jeff.
Well, now that other tornado touchdown.
The Night Team's Alex Browning is live in Hollywood with a look at the damage there. Alex.
46 in Washington, Belkey's Craig, is where we are at, right across from Orangebrook Elementary. In the video, well, it just speaks for it all. Take a look. This backyard just ripped apart. The folks who live here, that family inside, as all of this happened, you can see the back porch, that lanai ripped apart, barely hanging on. If we pan further over to the left, you can see just the destruction to the fence, that basketball hoop pushed over. Just complete shock from the folks who were not expecting this.
Everything's torn. The whole tree in the front is ripped off. It went to our neighbor from across the street. The street signs are all ripped off. I'm really shocked. This has never happened to me personally. I've never been through something like this. I was really scared. I'm not really a person who cries in situations like these, but when I was in the bathroom, I was starting to get really overwhelmed, and I started crying because I thought, like, oh wow, this is it. And yeah, but thank God everything's okay, you know.
And just on the other side of this home here, broken roof tiles scattered across blocks and blocks, trees ripped apart, barely recognizable. Even a family's SUV actually picked up and moved in the driveway. Destruction, certainly.
Dinner, and all of a sudden we hear this like loud whooshing sound, and everything started to shake a little bit. And we got out we yelled for the girls. They all came. We got into a nice closed spot with no windows, and it got really loud, and then all of a sudden, that's it. It disappeared, and that was it. It only lasted about 2 minutes or so. And then we could, you know, as soon as we were able to open the door, there was destruction. I mean, these trees don't even belong here. We don't even have trees in the property. The car got moved out.
And neighbors telling us the city was very quick. Public Works crews got out here to start cleaning up those tree limbs, that destruction. Again, certainly a lot of damage, a lot of destruction that most of South Florida thought we would be spared from because Ian shifted more west initially, more north, and we were outside of that cone. Luckily, police telling us tonight, no injuries so far reported. We're live in Hollywood tonight. Alex Browning, 7 News 19.
You know, this is how it looked in one Cooper City neighborhood tonight. A 7 News viewer sent us pictures of the damage. Some larger tree limbs brought down as a result of the rough weather that moved through. Again, as we mentioned earlier in the evening, this is the dirty side of the storm, so we are prone to seeing violent weather. Have a look at this. This is what one Margate homeowner got home to this evening. The ceiling of her patio cracked under the weight of all that heavy rain. The storm water started to flood the room there at that home in Margate. So again, all of this the result of those fast-moving outer bands from Ian.
Let's bring in Chief Meteorologist Phil Farrow with more on how the night unfolded and a look at where that system is now. Phil.
All right, so let me take you back in time here for just a moment. This is what it looked like on radar between 6 and 8 p.m. tonight. There's the center of circulation, and then we had 1, 2, 3 feeder bands moving across with all the focus of the energy sitting right across Broward County. Now, this is going to be a little busy, but let me show you what we're looking at. This is Broward County. There's I-95, Johnson Street, Pembroke Pines. The first tornado report that we had was at around 7 o'clock tonight. It was at the location of North 46th Avenue and Fillmore Street. And then we had yet another tornado being reported also in Broward County, right across Sheridan Street, Northwest 97th Avenue. And that was a fast mover, and it was gone in about 10 minutes as it moved across the area, heading from the southeast to the northwest. Presently, we're still dealing with all those feeder bands. There's the eye, the center of the hurricane, sitting just to the west of Key West. Presently, just under 40 miles from Key West. That's a huge eye right here. about 35 miles across. All the lines here, those are all rainfalls on downpours that's moving across South Florida. Right now we have one big downpour sitting right across Redland. And anytime you see a little green arrow, that could be the start of a funnel cloud taking place in the upper levels of the atmosphere. And then there's more rain in store. There's yet another feeder band out here that'll be moving in over the overnight hours. So we should have at least a nice little break for a few hours across the mainland. So because we had so much rainfall, not raining now in parts of Broward here, but because we had so much rainfall earlier, a flash flood warning is still in place for Davie, Lauderhill, and Sunrise until 10:30 this evening. And once again, flash flood advisory in place until 10:15 here for a few more minutes from Pembroke Pines all the way through Coral Springs, not because of present rainfall, but because of earlier downpours. And take a look at the downpours indeed. Tamarack over 5 inches of rain, Sunrise exactly at 5, better than 4.5 in Pembroke Pines, over 4 in Davie, just under 2.25 in Pompano Beach, and Fort Lauderdale Executive under 3/4. Meanwhile, Miami-Dade, Miami Springs almost 5 inches, over 4 in Homestead and Miami, 3 3/4 inches in Opelika. West Kendall better than 3 1/3, and Key West almost an inch and a half. More rainfall is in store for South Florida. 6 to 8 to 12 inches of rain are possible across Miami-Dade and Broward counties. Because of that, a flood watch is in place for Thursday, 8 a.m. for all the mainland and for the Florida Keys until Wednesday, 6 a.m. But for where Hurricane Ian is now and where to set it, we go to meteorologist Brent Cameron. Brent?
Well, Phil, we don't have to wait as long for those advisories, still getting those coming in on the hour, and because of that, we can give you the very latest 10 o'clock advisory. 120-mile-per-hour hurricane, that is Ian. It is located now 175 miles to the south and southwest of Punta Gorda, Florida. Still moving off to the north and northeast at a steady 10-mile-per-hour speed, and still forecast to move toward the southwest portion of Florida, if not the west central part. Either way, the Gulf side of the state gearing up for that direct strike on Wednesday. And then notice down the road, it is expected to weaken quite fast over land. Now, as Phil pointed out just a few moments ago, it was in the last 3 hours we were watching the very center, the eye of Ian, get to its closest point to Key West. It has moved on now, since moving off a little more to the north over the last couple of hours. And there you see the rain associated with that giant spin, if you will. It is spinning out a lot of energy, a lot of moisture, as those tropical rain bands continue to spread all across the region, even here into southeast Florida, where we've had more than our fair share of heavy downpours today. Now, the areas in green all up and down the eastern Atlantic side of the state, and even including the Lake Okeechobee area under a tropical storm warning. That means winds in association with the hurricane, winds at about 39 miles per hour or above, and gusty conditions there. That is better, of course, than the red area you see. And that is where we expect hurricane conditions as we go into time, and that's as far north as Clearwater at the moment. And then farther north, some tropical storm warnings that may be adjusted with the next advisory. Here's a close-up cone. How strong will this be at landfall? Well, it's going to be fairly close to making landfall, not that many miles off of the Fort Myers area as a Cat 4. And then as we go farther into time, it will weaken over land, most likely moving into central Florida and just becoming a Category 1 system and then a tropical storm not far from the Space Coast. Now, we talked about a Category 4 system. What does that mean? 130-mile-per-hour winds to 156. That is what is in store for the area in between Fort Myers and possibly Tampa still. And that is going to be enough to cause some severe damage to buildings, uproot trees, and bring power loss to a lot of folks, maybe for weeks. Here's one more look at the flood threat we are still under as we go through tonight and even tomorrow on the very soggy side of the system. Well, coming up, we'll have more on Ian and your entire forecast. Stay tuned.
Thank you both. We'll see you then.
Well, being only 40 or so miles from the center of the system, it has been a stormy night tonight in parts of the Keys.
Night Team's TJ Parker is live in Key West with a look at what's happening there. TJ.
Stormy for sure, Belkys and Craig. It has been relentless. The rain, the wind, the storm surge. The rain has actually stopped here for the time being, but the wind is still just as bad as it has been all evening long. And the real concern now is the storm surge. Look at this street we're on right now. We're just a few yards away from the Gulf of Mexico, and the speed that this water came up from the Gulf to pretty far up the street here was pretty incredible. And of course, this big concern is that people driving in this. So authorities are asking people not to drive in this water. Of course, this as Ian passes by. As night falls across the Florida Keys, tropical storm force winds still staying strong.
Starting to get a little nervous.
Wondering if the coconuts are going to fall off the trees, bounce off our heads or something.
Storm surge from Hurricane Ian inundating streets.
It is pretty wild.
The eye coming within 60 miles of Key West. Earlier Tuesday, the brunt of Ian seen ripping through palm trees and churning seas.
Our kids think we're crazy because we're out in this weather.
As the storm makes its way toward Florida's west coast, its fury making a spectacle for people in the Keys.
My daughter just called and said, "Mom, what are you doing outside?"
Tropical storm warnings issued for the Keys, and Monroe County officials urging people to be ready and to stay off the roads with the threat of flooding. At the southernmost point, people there dodging the waves as they watch and wait for Hurricane Ian.
Very memorable.
Over at Duval Pocket Park, the McClanahans are celebrating their honeymoon.
Both adventurous people, they say, we make the best of what we got.
As day turns to night, islanders hoping Ian passes by quick.
I prefer the sun, but this is really wild.
Yeah, wild is an understatement, especially right now. You're looking down this street and the Gulf of Mexico, and where we're standing, it is one and the same. As you see, the storm surge continuing to build here, and this is what was forecasted. We had been telling you that this would be an issue here in Key West for several days, and we are now seeing it. Not only are we seeing this storm surge, but we're seeing debris as well being picked up from the wind and from this storm surge. So, of course, the thing from authorities is they're just telling people to stay in your safe spot. Do not get out on these roads, although we have seen some people out on these streets, which is not advisable. The other thing we want to mention as well is that there's roughly about 4,000 people right now without power here in the Florida Keys. We are live in Key West tonight. I'm TJ Parker, 7 News 19.
And we have breaking news coming out of Cuba at this hour in the aftermath of Hurricane Ian.
We're learning tonight the Cuban electrical grid has completely collapsed, leaving the country, the entire country, without power. Ian ravaged the western portion of the island with violent winds and flooding overnight. State-run media reports the failure began in the national electric system. Crews are working right now to restore electricity. Again, Cuba, the entire nation, in the dark tonight.
Also tonight, Miami-Dade County hit hard by Ian's outer bands, leading to some flooding problems.
And team coverage continues with Rafael Perez. He is in the city of Miami for us. Rafael.
So right now we do have some pretty good wind coming through, a little bit of rain, but because of those outer bands that Ian has been sending our way throughout most of the day here in Miami-Dade County, it really has been all or nothing. When those bands are here on top of us, we are getting heavy downpours, we are getting strong winds, but when those bands make their way through, once it makes its way past us, then we have some good amount of time of really calm weather, and that's a really good thing for us here because that gives plenty of time for some of those higher water levels to recede. But you will, however, still see a couple of spots that look like this. You can see right back here behind me, we're on Biscayne Boulevard. This is right under the 395 bridge. This is one of the usual suspects. It tends to flood even when we get just a little bit of rain. So in days like this, you will definitely continue to see this area flood here. But as you can see, not too much rain right now, but there is still some standing water there. This is just one example of several different kinds of flooding and other nuisances that people have been dealing with throughout our area.
Strong wind gusts and drenching downpours. Miami-Dade County getting just a glimpse of the power Hurricane Ian is bringing to the Sunshine State. We're not in the cone of concern, but not in the clear yet either. In West Miami-Dade, a frightening sight as a transformer appears to explode and you see power lines dangling after being struck by debris along West Flagler Street and 97th Avenue. Flooding throughout the day, creating nasty conditions along the roads.
We just got to prepare, best of our abilities and, hope for the best.
And with the storm coming through during king tides, where the water levels can get to some of the highest points we've seen all year, the mess is expected to get worse.
And pretty much after every time we get those heavy bands coming through and all of this heavy rain, this is a lot of what we're seeing. Water filling up fast in all of those trouble spots that we're all too familiar with, like the 395 on-ramp here off of Biscayne Boulevard.
And that's why Miami-Dade County and local city officials say crews have been working overtime and focusing on places that have seen higher water in the past. In Miami, areas like Edgewater, downtown, and Brickell dealing with on and off again flooding, though during times where the rain held off, many out and about enjoying the night. On the beach near 65th and Indian Creek Drive, the power knocked out for a few hundred people for a while. A busy few days in South Florida, with many hoping the impacts remain minimal.
Just be ready, have your essentials, if you live at home, have a generator.
And right now, take a look at these pictures just into our newsroom. This is in the Miami Shores area, 107th Street and North Miami Avenue. Those strong gusts of wind, very strong in parts of the area here throughout the day. You can see it snapped a tree in half, knocking over a stop sign there. So once again, back out here live, despite us not being in the cone of concern, we are not going to be getting the brunt of Hurricane Ian, but we are still going to be dealing with a lot of issues like the flooding, like the strong winds. So officials here in the area are asking people to be prepared and be cautious if you have to be out on those roads. For now, we are live in downtown Miami. I'm Rafael Pires, 7 News 19.
Well, with that in mind, there is some parents' information to pass along. That is, to parents. Miami-Dade Public Schools are going to be closed tomorrow and Thursday. Same in Broward. In Monroe County, classes are canceled for tomorrow and perhaps beyond that as well. So stay tuned for more from Monroe County.
Well, with a slightly shifting, the projected path that we've seen throughout the day came shifting concerns for others up and down the Gulf Coast.
The 19 Sheldon Fox is in Port Charlotte, where memories of 2004's Charlie are still fresh. And tonight, people there anxious and preparing. Sheldon?
They absolutely are. And the good news about this section, Craig and Belkis, of Port Charlotte, is that we're not in the evacuation zone. But the bad news is this section of Port Charlotte and the rest of the city and the county expected to get pounded. And now it's just a waiting game. Emerald Lake is the kind of quaint neighborhood where families have their names displayed outside their homes.
I'm 76 years old and I work part-time, and it's just me and my dog, and here we are.
It's where people like Joe Stroll came to either retire or, in his case, soak up the charm of Southwest Florida.
Never really experienced a big hurricane.
And that's likely to change. Stroll says he moved here 3 years ago from near Philadelphia.
I'm used to snowstorms, not a hurricane.
This isn't Brad Hendricks' first go-around with an approaching hurricane.
I know I done been through a lot of hurricanes, so.
He hit the Punta Gorda Home Depot for a last-minute stock-up of plywood just before it closed, for who knows how long. Last Call at Publix had a similar vibe, with shoppers just beating the 6 p.m. closing time clock, heading out of the shutter and sandbagged protected supermarket.
Oh, we just got a couple of things that we needed just for some ice. We're going over to a friend's house. We got the house set to go and just ready for it to be over.
This will be interesting, you know. I've been faked out so many times that I don't really believe it until it happens.
Bob Katzen says he rode out previous storms here, even deadly Hurricane Charlie in 2004. 18 years later, the threat of what could come again.
Yeah, a little anxious.
Has Stroll and many others understandably worried about.
All right, man. Losing everything, really. I mean, you know, this is it. This is my home.
And that is the primary concern for so many people here. In fact, so many people in the building behind me. This is where we're going to be riding out the storm, and we'll be bringing you reports throughout the day tomorrow. The weather's already getting bad here. We're told, well, it's getting much worse than it's already been. It's already been bad. We're told there are 200 plus people, families and pets on the inside of this hotel, not a single hotel room vacant. Staff there prepared to help people if they need help, and it'll be where we'll be throughout the night and through tomorrow and beyond. Stay with us. For now, we're live in Port Charlotte. Sheldon Fox, 7 News Night Team.
Well, from Port Charlotte up now to Tampa.
The night team's Nicole and Salata live with how they are preparing there. Nicole.
Well, I can tell you right now it is a sharp contrast to what you are seeing down in Miami-Dade and Broward counties. Right now, the weather has been a little bit gloomy and a little bit wet, but nothing bad at all. Although we know that that is going to change. There are dozens of shelters open up in this area because everyone is expecting some sort of very severe hit.
I feel pretty confident. You never know, because these things do zigzag sometime, so you never know what they're going to do.
And on this gray and gloomy Tampa evening, it's really just a waiting game.
We'll just hunker down and ride through it.
The time to prepare now running out.
Hello. I'm telling myself that we are going to be okay.
Inside the Super Mario gas station in West Tampa, it seems like business as usual, and Yvette Rivera is still working.
I'm not getting really upset. I'm, for the majority of the part, calm.
But outside, every pump covered in plastic.
We currently don't have any gas.
Because Ian is looming.
Water has sold out. Propane tanks have sold out.
The city gave out tens of thousands of sandbags. The last residents to get them Tuesday lined up near an empty but open gas station.
Got really lucky here being able to get gas without waiting lines, but there's a lot of people waiting for sand and other stuff, so I'm just trying to do the best we can.
So is Ann Ray, who secured her outside items and packed up her home to head out of state.
You know, it's pretty much, it is what it is, and you just have to deal with what you've got going, and then when you come back, you see what you've got.
At times, traffic heading out of town has come to a crawl, and Tampa General Hospital now surrounded by makeshift walls to protect from a sudden rush of water. Now that many have done all they can, they just hope it will be enough.
Obviously, with the way the bay is laid out, you know, the worst tends to kind of pass us, so I'm optimistic, and I think we'll be okay.
And more people that we spoke to sort of this evening said that they're feeling that sense of optimism, but it might be a little too soon for that. Of course, everybody is looking at those advisories very closely. And one county near here, Pinellas County, which is just to our west, they are telling folks to just shelter in place, that they feel like right now it's going to very soon be too dangerous to even get in your car. Reporting live in Tampa tonight, Nicole Insalata, 7 News 19.
Well, if you were thinking about heading up to the Florida theme parks, some info for you. Both Walt Disney World and Universal Orlando will be closed tomorrow and Thursday as Hurricane Ian possibly approaches the Orlando area.
Stay with 7 News as we continue to track Hurricane Ian. Updates and new advisories on air, online, on the 7 News app, and on our social media.
And you can download our Hurricane Tracker app right now. All you got to do is grab your phone, scan the QR code that you see right there on your screen, and it'll give you real-time updates on the storm, including the latest cone of concern.
Still ahead here from the night team as we continue. We will follow the big story of the night, Hurricane Ian on the move as it inches closer toward the Sunshine State.
The powerful storm causing 2 tornado touchdowns in South Florida tonight, knocking down trees and littering streets and neighborhoods with debris. Much more on Ian's path and the effects when we come right back.
Charlie Crist is increasing costs, hurting Florida families. He voted for inflationary spending that explodes.
storm surge that is coming up and over that part of the Florida Keys there.
We certainly hope in the next few minutes to check back in with our reporter, TJ Parker, who's there. Although, if you look at the picture, you can probably understand why. And maybe we can loop Chief Meteorologist Phil Farrow in the conversation, why it's difficult for us to reach out to him. And Phil, I thought I saw a stat just a while ago that the tide levels from the king tide, the rain that's fallen, and the surge, that it's near the major flooding stage there in Key West and up to the Middle Keys, parts of them.
Well, yes, indeed. As a matter of fact, we just had a report out of Summerlin Key, not too far from Key West, that was reporting 1 foot above sea level already and going into some people's homes. And you can understand the reason why. There is the hurricane, and as it spins along, it's basically just pushing water on shore, and it's going to make for a very nasty evening all across not just the lower Florida Keys, but the entire island chain, as we're seeing that kind of wall of water moving in, all due to the storm surge from Hurricane Ian. And we're looking at some very strong gusty winds as well with this system. We've already seen some tropical storm force wind gusts, even close to hurricane force winds. Look at this. These have been the strongest wind gusts that we have seen so far. Fort Lauderdale, 41 miles per hour. Miami, you've seen 35. But take a look at Key West, as strong as 71 miles per hour, and they're going to be dealing with this for at least until the system is out of the area. Presently, where TJ is at, we're looking at wind gusts of 68 miles per hour. Up the road here across Marathon, 54 miles per hour, and this is not going to let up anytime soon, at least until the system actually makes landfall across southwest Florida. And the thinking is that it'll probably do so sometime tomorrow in the afternoon. I'll have the very latest a little bit later on.
Real quick, Phil, that 71 mile per hour gust, that's near hurricane force gust there.
You are correct. Anything 74 miles and above, that's considered a Category 1. So that was very, very close to being a Cat 1 wind gust.
And that 68 miles per hour you just see on the screen there, that's not far behind. So
correct.
Again, not a direct hit by any stretch of the imagination, but certainly a tough night for our friends down in the middle and lower Keys.
All the more reason why we can't hook up with TJ, but we're going to try and see if we can get another live report from him later on in the newscast. But stick around, more on Hurricane Ian when we come right back. Keep it here. The storm warning, the hurricane warning, has now expanded to cover roughly 220 miles of Florida's west coast.
The area includes Fort Myers, Tampa, St. Pete to the north. Could get their first major hit by a major storm since 1921 in that area. Forecasters say the storm surge could reach 12 feet. Rainfall near the area of landfall could be a staggering 18 inches. We're waiting on that 11 p.m. advisory, and the new forecast cone could get it at any time now, so stay tuned for that.
It's your journey. Own every mile in the Hyundai Santa Fe. Lease a Hyundai Santa Fe starting at $259 a month or get 3.29% APR for 48 months. Visit buyhyundai.com today.
I met Governor DeSantis in 2009 when he was on active duty. He was a Navy commissioned officer and served in Iraq. When you're advising SEAL Team 1, you're making life and death decisions every day. And as someone who has served side by side with him, he is selfless and he will do what is in your best interest, not his best interest. The Navy's core values are honor, courage, and commitment. And Governor DeSantis embodied those core values on active duty, and he embodies them every day as the governor of our state. Governor DeSantis is a true servant leader.
Listen up, let me tell you a story. 6 is Broadway's Tony Award-winning euphoric celebration. Direct from Broadway, the Tony Award-winning 6. This October, visit 6southflorida.com for tickets.
Just outside of a town called Basic is Basic Lake, where families gather together for some basic fun. And if you have the 2022 Nissan Rogue, with a VC turbo engine and 5 drive modes, you can climb above Basic and find a trail where no one else goes. The 2022 Nissan Rogue, anything but basic.
Get 1.9% APR financing on Rogue or shop our inventory of certified pre-owned vehicles.
I thought that I was living my life better with opiates. By the time I got pregnant with my 4th child, I had to start using harder drugs. Every time she would move, I would use something else. I wanted to be a good mom. I just didn't know how, and I was so sick that I didn't know what to do. Not giving up was the most important thing because now I'm not struggling anymore. The peace does come.
It's your
All right, good evening, everyone. Here's the very latest on Hurricane Ian. As of the 10 p.m. advisory, they're being issued now every hour on the hour as the system is getting very close to southwest Florida. 120-mile-per-hour winds, that is a Category 3, and it is centered about 175 miles south-southwest of Punta Gorda, Florida. By the way, it is moving to the north-northeast at around 10 miles per hour, and that's pretty average for a tropical system. Here is the color satellite. It made landfall this morning across western Cuba at around 4:30 a.m. with 125-mile-an-hour winds, and you can see all the cloudiness being sent in our direction. That has brought us some pockets of very heavy rainfall. The eye of the center right now still west of Key West. That'll continue to track towards the west coast of the state. So here is the very latest advisory, 120. It is looking pretty good here. Look at all this radar detecting rainfall, not just across the southeastern Gulf of Mexico, but also across the coastal waters. And that's what we have been seeing lately across our area. It's been those feeder bands moving across. Category 3, it will continue to track towards the west coast of Florida, possibly a Category 4 before making landfall somewhere between Fort Myers and Sarasota. Now, once it moves on shore, it's going to start to weaken rather rapidly as it loses the fuel source of the warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico. Category 1 by 2 a.m. Still, though, 80-mile-per-hour winds, and then it'll start to weaken further and raining itself out across Georgia and South Carolina. Now, there are plenty of watches and warnings in place. Everything in green here is a tropical storm warning that does include Miami-Dade and Broward, and we've seen those wind gusts tonight. reaching 39 mile per hour plus. And then we do have a hurricane warning here from Clearwater south into Chokoloskee. More advisories are in place across northern Florida. So what does a tropical storm warning mean? Well, it means that throughout the forecasted area, we could see tropical storm force winds. They are being forecast until, all the way through 39 miles per hour or more. So if you feel like your property needs to be protected, this is the time to finish those preparations. Here's the radar still detecting those feeder bands moving on shore. The hurricane itself, the eye, just sitting to the west of Key West. We are going to continue to see heavy rain. Right now, more downpours moving in across Broward County. More rain on top of saturated groundfall. That means that South Florida will remain under a flood watch until Thursday morning for the mainland and for the Keys until 6 a.m. Here's the forecast. Not a good morning to go out on a boat tomorrow. The same throughout the Florida Keys. Now, the next high tide will be important because we're dealing with king tides. 10 o'clock hour this evening just took place, 11:32 for Key West. Mostly cloudy, gusty, windy conditions tonight. Plenty of rain. Repeat performance during the day tomorrow. And then here's your extended outlook. Still, by Thursday, more Ian impacts across South Florida. That's your 7 on 7. 7 News will be right back.
Just one station keeps you ahead of the storm with 7's exclusive Cone on your phone. Get it for free when you download the 7 News Hurricane Tracker app. Turn on notifications to stay informed 24/7. Powered by Estrella.
And they call you a racist. Congresswoman Val Demings is for all of this. She votes with Pelosi 100% of the time. I'm Marco Rubio, and I approve this message because I was raised by people who lost their country. I'm not gonna let us lose ours.
Your loved ones show up for you. At HCA Florida Healthcare, we do too, and you'll feel it in everything we do. HCA Florida Healthcare, we show up for you.
I'm being asked to describe the QX60 with one word. I was going to say fabulous, but fabulous just seems so cliche, but it is. From the interior to the little details, but it's also practical. It's spacious, it's sporty. I can't describe it in one word. It's all the things. It's everything.
7 investigates, getting results.
It did get done when you got involved. Without Channel 7 coming in to help, nothing, absolutely nothing would have been done.
Thank you. I greatly appreciate it.
Only on 7 News.
Got this piece of video we want to share with you tonight. Check this out. It's from NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. It was shot from one of their hurricane hunter planes. You can see clearly the bands of intense lightning that's popping up, I should say, around the outer edges of this big system. And you could see that eye of the hurricane is clearly visible as well. That is pretty impressive.
Indeed, it is. Scary, impressive, all at once, yeah.
All of the above.
Sports coming up next. The Dolphins starting quarterback is doing everything he can to take the field Thursday night in Cincinnati.
And Hurricane Ian has caused several colleges to postpone their football games this weekend. Josh is here with all the details when we come right back.
This is Papa John's New York style pizza. Now, how does Papa John's get that thin, tasty New York style crust? Because they only use fresh, never frozen dough.
probably paid too much.
19 news alert off the top here at 11. Hurricane Ian spawning tornadoes in Broward County. One of them in Pembroke Pines, shredding trees and tossing branches.
Tornado rolled through several neighborhoods. One resident walked outside to find this. Cars covered by large branches, splintered by the winds.
The winds so strong they tossed and damaged planes at North Perry Airport. It is a nasty night in South Florida, and our complete 19 coverage on Hurricane Ian starts right now.
This is 7 News at 11.
In a busy few hours, and it's all because of Hurricane Ian, the Category 3 system causing serious tornado trouble across the area. Hello and good evening. 2 confirmed tornadoes, one in Pembroke Pines, the other in Hollywood.
Brandon Byer begins our night team coverage. He's in Pembroke Pines with a look at the damage there. Brandon.
Oh, Belkey's, Craig, such a busy night across this Pembroke Pines neighborhood. Still see cars out and about, some work crews trying to clear what's left, like behind me here. This in the parking lot of an elementary school. Thankfully, school's closed tomorrow, so that's going to help with the cleanup. Also appears some of the construction that was underway blown around.
Sounds like a train coming right through the kitchen.
I looked outside and I heard that familiar freight train sound.
A lot of wind, a lot of rain, a lot of water.
A rough night in this Pembroke Pines neighborhood Tuesday when bands from Hurricane Ian dropped what appears to be a tornado, blocking roadways. A small SUV that seems to have attempted to drive over some of the branches stuck.
I walked out and, you know, the garbage can had moved a little bit and I'm going, well, that's kind of interesting. But then when you came out and you went up the street here and down west here on Pasadena Boulevard, you can see where all the damage was.
Residents quick to begin the cleanup process, dragging away debris, using chainsaws to clear the road.
The whole neighborhood came together, right? We're able to clear the road for everybody, get the first responders in to help anybody that's hurt. A lot of branches down, a lot of cars, not looking too good, but then the whole neighborhood's come together, which is a great thing.
I mean, I live right over here, but we're helping strangers. That's what we're a neighborhood. That's what we're here for.
A nearby elementary school also damaged in the storm. Schools are closed in Broward County on Wednesday, which will give them time for cleanup here as well. Yeah, and it really was something to see those folks work so well together in such a short amount of time, checking on people, trying to get stuff off of the roads. As you heard there in the piece, no school across Broward County tomorrow on Wednesday. That's going to help with this little elementary school get up and running. No school on Thursday either. Live tonight, Pembroke Pines, Brandon Byer, 7 News, 19.
Well, Brandon, we want to head to North Perry Airport now where strong winds caused the damage to the planes there. Jeff Lennox is live with a look at this. Jeff.
Well, Belkey's, all is calm here in the 11 o'clock hour, but just a couple hours ago, it was a nasty night here in North Perry Airport as one of those rain bands was moving through with Ian. Here behind me, you can see a number of aircraft damage. This orange plane right here, single-engine aircraft. You can see where the tail ripped off as that feeder band moved on through. Here on this property at this airport, 17 planes in total were damaged.
Oh wow, this is a twin. They're totally destroyed.
All over the tarmac at North Perry Airport in Pembroke Pines, mangled metal tossed all over the place. Ian unleashing strong wind gusts as a nasty rain band moved through Tuesday night after 7:30 p.m.
There was avgas or 100 low lead fuel all over the place. It's a hazmat situation. I got another 172 that is completely destroyed here.
Single engine planes flipped, tossed onto one another like toys. Tails ripped off. Even some of these planes tied down for an event just like this one, ripped from the ground, they're tied to. The winds proving too strong for these small aircraft.
It's pretty messed up, and there's hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of aircraft that are completely destroyed here.
Stephen J. Gray keeps an eye on the traffic for today in Florida. Tuesday night, he got the alert about the damage at North Perry and shot these videos.
I was watching, our station, and then you see that it went through University and Miramar and damage. So I said, let me come to North Perry and see what the damage is, and sure enough, it's a bad day here.
Just to the north of the airport, that same band uprooting trees. Branches and debris scattered all over this apartment complex off Northwest 78th Terrace. Ian, one unwelcome guest who took these residents by complete surprise.
I was just, chilling inside, and then out of nowhere, like the big gushes of wind. And I look outside, tree branches everywhere, on top of our cars.
I was eating and all we heard was like a big bang on the door, and then it was like a bunch of wind, like out of nowhere, for like a good minute.
and then we came out and we saw the trees down. It was actually on top of the car, but we took it down.
And back here at North Perry Airport, you can see two more small aircraft right there damaged as that band moved through earlier tonight. Now we have Pembroke Pines police here, fire rescue also here at this location. It does not appear there were any injuries here at the airport or in that neighborhood just north of here. But again, after talking to people here, here on the airport property, they say the damage totals could top well over $100,000, possibly even more. We're live in Pembroke Pines. Jeff Lennox, 7 News 19.
All right, Jeff, toss around like little toys.
Yeah. Well, a tornado also touched down in Hollywood.
Definitely left it to Mark Baer. The night team's Alex Browning is there with more on this. Alex.
And that damage, Belkey's Craig, spreads several city blocks, according to a Hollywood commissioner. Many people in this neighborhood telling us they thought the biggest issue they'll have to deal with when it came to Ian would be the rainfall. But take a look at what some of them found as they came out of their home after that tornado, rather. A path of destruction left in Hollywood Hills.
Yeah, we were preparing for dinner, and all of a sudden we hear this like loud whooshing sound, and everything started to shake a little bit.
From a distance, we see everything getting flown away from our window over there, as everything was getting flown away, and the power went out for a second, and we were hiding in the bathroom.
Yelled for the girls. They all came. We got into a nice closed spot with no windows.
Residents seeking shelter as a confirmed tornado touches down near 46th Avenue and Washington Street in Hollywood.
And it got really loud, and then that's it.
You know, when you hear the waves rushing across your face, that's exactly what it sounded like, but it was continuous. It was like it was nonstop, and it only lasted for like a minute, but it felt like 30. Trees shredded apart, a backyard porch destroyed, even a car lifted and moved in the driveway. Its back window blown out. City crews quick to move and clear debris following the tornado.
I pulled up and I was like, this is the city of Hollywood is out here. This is great. They just told us that they're cleaning the roads just to make sure that people can get through.
A big cleanup ahead, but many thankful no one was hurt.
Thank God everybody was safe. My mom was safe. I was safe. I just want to be grateful for tonight.
This is Florida. We're used to these things, but it was quite an experience, I have to say.
Certainly a scary night for so many families here in Hollywood Hills. Like you saw there, the roads are clear. City crews and police were out here within a few minutes after the all clear was given after that tornado. But there is much debris scattered across several lawns here in this neighborhood tonight. We're live in Hollywood. Alex Browning, 7 News 19.
All right, now how it looked in Cooper City, one neighborhood there this evening. A 7 News viewer sent us pictures of the damage. You can see these are fairly large trees that were brought down by some of that heavy weather that moved through earlier in the evening. Look at that, middle of the roadway. And there's this in Margate, what one homeowner walked into. Part of her ceiling on the patio cracked after all that heavy rain. The storm water started to flood the room there. Again, it was pretty messy for a few hours, couple hours ago, and we may not have seen the last of that as the storm makes its trek up the Gulf.
All that mess caused by those outer bands of Hurricane Ian.
Chief Meteorologist Phil Farrow is here with that 11 o'clock advisory, and because we're getting so much closer to the event itself now, that forecast Conan you're going to share is really honing in on an area, Phil.
Yes, indeed. It looks like for sure southwest Florida, and it could eventually make landfall very close to Fort Myers. Now, here is the satellite view, and you can see that this is a very large system, about 300 to 400 miles wide. There's the eye, the center of the storm. For us here, it has been the feeder bands, or those rain bands, that have been impacting our area with strong gusty winds, heavy rainfall, and tornadic activity. Now, here's the radar, and it shows that we have a Category 3 system. A lot of heavy rainfall still sitting offshore. That'll get pushed our way during the day tomorrow. 120-mile-per-hour winds as of the 11 p.m. advisory. Now being tracked out of Naples, moving north-northeast at around 10 miles per hour. So as we move ahead here in time, here's the close-up cone. It appears that the system will make landfall somewhere here in between Naples and Tampa, possibly right on Fort Myers as a Category 4 system. Then once inland, it'll start to weaken still a Category 3. And then as it loses its power source, it'll become a tropical storm by Thursday. And now the cone has it going over the open waters here of the Western Atlantic. there's a chance that it could re-intensify. We'll be watching out for that. And then it loops right back in through coastal Georgia and southeastern South Carolina here. Eventually, the remnants will possibly fall apart somewhere over Kentucky or Tennessee. Now let's take a look at the wind field. There it is, Category 3. Those tropical storm force winds extend out 140 miles. The hurricane force winds out 40 miles. You can understand now why we are under a tropical storm warning, as this wind field is rather large. By tomorrow, we're going to see some gusty winds across the area. And there you go, Fort Myers, Category 4 winds sometime Wednesday afternoon. Plenty of advisories in place. Everything in green here is a tropical storm warning. Everything in red, hurricane warning from Chokoloskee all the way through Clearwater, and still many more advisories in place for the East Coast and for Florida's Big Bend. So what is a tropical storm warning? Well, it means that tropical storm force winds over 39 miles per hour are now expected over our area. You have to finish your preparations now. If you feel that your property needs some help, this is the time to finish it all, because by tomorrow we're going to see those gusty winds staying with us. Look at all the heavy rain that moved in across South Florida. There's the eye, the center of the system, punching all that rain our way. We had a couple of tornadoes tonight, and the rain continues to come down rather heavily in parts of western Broward. A tornado watch remains in effect until tomorrow morning at 5 a.m. That may get extended as well. We'll have a lot more a little bit later on.
All right, now to some important information for parents. Miami-Dade Public Schools are going to be closed tomorrow and Thursday, same in Broward. In Monroe County, classes are canceled for tomorrow, and we'll check back with them to see if they go beyond that.
Stay with 7 News as we continue to track Hurricane Ian updates, new advisories. We've got it all on the air, online, on our 7 News app, and all of our social media platforms. And you can also download our Hurricane Tracker app right now by scanning the QR code there on the screen. It provides real-time updates on the storm, including the latest forecast cone. And still ahead here tonight, we will continue to watch Hurricane Ian as it inches closer to the Florida coast. The storm's outer bands putting South Florida under some watches and warnings and causing some damage across our area here. Also, we hope to check back in with our crew in Key West, where storm surge, heavy rain, and king tides have already flooded streets there. We're going to have more right after this. If you've been with us over the course of the evening, you've seen the Keys have been getting battered by Ian. Conditions worsening by the hour as Ian comes closer to the coast. TJ Parker picks up our night team coverage. He's in Key West.
wind has been relentless all evening long here in Key West, but the big concern now is the storm surge. You can see it on the street here next to the hotel we're staying at, and the water has been rising for hours. This as authorities are urging people to stay off the roads as Hurricane Ian passes by. As night falls across the Florida Keys, tropical storm force winds still staying strong.
Starting to get a little nervous. Wondering if the coconuts are going to fall off the trees, bounce off our heads or something.
Storm surge from Hurricane Ian inundating streets.
It is pretty wild.
The eye coming within 60 miles of Key West. Earlier Tuesday, the brunt of Ian seen ripping through palm trees and churning seas.
Our kids think we're crazy because we're out in this weather.
As the storm makes its way toward Florida's west coast, its fury making a spectacle for people in the Keys.
My daughter just called and said, "Mom, what are you doing outside?"
Tropical storm warnings issued for the Keys, and Monroe County officials urging people to be ready and to stay off the roads with the threat of flooding. At the southernmost point, people there dodging the waves as they watch and wait for Hurricane Ian.
Very memorable.
Over at Duval Pocket Park, the McClanahans are celebrating their honeymoon.
Both adventurous people, let's say we make the best of what we got.
As day turns to night, islanders hoping Ian passes by quick.
I prefer the sun, but this is really wild.
Again, the big concern here is the storm surge, and authorities asking people to stay off the road as Hurricane Ian passes by. Also, more than 4,000 people are without power here in the Florida Keys. In Key West, I'm TJ Parker, 7 News 19.
And there's breaking news out of Cuba in the aftermath of the storm.
We are learning that Cuba's electrical grid has collapsed this evening, leaving the entire country without power. The hurricane ravaged the western end of the island with violent winds and flooding, but state-run media is reporting the failure is in the national electric system. Crews are said to be working through the night to restore the electricity to the island.
Coming up tonight, Storm Station is staying on top of Ian's every move.
Bill Farrow is going to be back after the break with the latest on the watches, the warnings, and where the storm is headed, what you can expect overnight and tomorrow. Keep it here.
My crypto's down.
No coiner.
Trust. This'll move.
Do the fragging.
All right, good evening, everyone. Here's the latest on Hurricane Ian. As of the 11 p.m. advisory, 120-mile-an-hour winds moving at around 10 miles per hour, now being tracked out of Naples, 110 miles southwest of Southwest Florida. Now, here is the satellite view. You can see the center of the eye, and this area right here is where you're going to find the strongest winds, heaviest of the rainfall. That is aiming for Southwest Florida. We, on the other hand, are getting the feeder bands, those rain bands coming across, and when they do, they could have some strong gusty winds. Now, as we look ahead here, this is what the close-up cone is suggesting. Could make a direct landfall here almost right over Fort Myers with a Category 4 winds, 130 miles per hour. And then it's going to start to weaken a little bit as it moves away from the warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico down to tropical storm by Thursday morning. And then it's going to inch back out into the western Atlantic. There is a chance, even though it's not shown here, but there is a chance back over warm waters that it could re-intensify. Then it appears it's going to make a turn back towards the northwest, impacting coastal Georgia. The same with South Carolina. Now look at the wind field, because it's rather large. Those tropical storm force winds of over 40 miles per hour extend out from the center 140 miles. The very strong 120 mile per hour winds extend out from the center 40 miles. But you can see as the wind field expands here, you can see and understand now why Broward, Miami-Dade, and the Keys are under a tropical storm warning. And there it is. By tomorrow, right at noon, there's a chance that it could be making landfall over Fort Myers. The feeder bands continue to come across South Florida. There's the eye, the center of circulation, but here are the rain bands that soak up all the heat energy from the ocean and feed the center of the storm, the engine, and it has brought us some gusty winds. Take a look at some of these tropical storm force winds, 41 miles per hour in Fort Lauderdale, Miami 35. But check out Key West, the strongest wind gusts that we could find, 79 miles per hour. That's over hurricane strength. We are expecting more rain tomorrow on top of already rain-soaked areas, so there's a flood watch in place for all of South Florida. All right, so let's take a look at the forecast for tomorrow. We're still looking at a tropical storm warning. Not a day to be on a boat. Biscayne Bay will be rough. More of the same throughout the Keys. Tropical storm warning. Coastal waters extremely rough. Now, your next high tide will be very important. That's because we're looking at king tides. It just happened in Fort Lauderdale and Miami, 11:32 in Key West. Meanwhile, for us tonight, mostly cloudy, gusty winds, rainfall, overnight lows in the upper 70s. By tomorrow, still stormy. Highs will be in the mid to upper 80s. And here's your extended outlook. Still dealing with Ian impacts through Thursday, hoping for much better conditions by the time the weekend rolls around. That's your 7 on 7. 7 Sports is next.